I'm going to go to item 15. Maureen Stapleton is here, and she has some time constraints. Just a couple of comments, and let me tee it up for you. San Diego County Water Authority continues to challenge the irresponsible practices of the Metropolitan Water District in Los Angeles. And this is a resolution that Vice Chair Gaspar and I have brought before the board to support the Water Authority. And the resolution really puts us squarely on the side of the Water Authority and water users in an area. It supports the Water Authority's water supply plans and its legal battle with Metropolitan. In case there's any confusion, just to be blunt, Metro is a scam operation pretending to be a water agency. It is ripping off our local water users with illegal rate hikes and irresponsible spending. Metro's rates keep climbing, doubling over the past decade. It recently spent hundreds of millions of dollars on unbudgeted turf rebate programs and questionable land purchases. Then it had borrowed hundreds of millions to meet its financial reserve minimums. Meanwhile, the Water Authority is working hard to boost access to affordable and reliable water with improvements like desalinated seawater. Now, 15 years ago, we were 95% dependent on Metro. That figure is expected to drop to 20% by 2020. That's significant. But Metro continues to undermine the efforts. It's not an agency that is working in the public's interest. It's trying to shake down the public, and we're paying a huge price in San Diego for its reckless and greedy practices. It's time to halt the hikes and stop the spending. Enough is enough. We're not going to let Metro leave local water users high and dry, and I hope the board will support this. I'll go to Maureen in a moment, but I wanted to first give Vice Chair Gaspar an opportunity to sound off on this issue.
Well, I think you did a pretty good job sounding off this morning. I'm proud to partner with Chairwoman Jacob on this item to hold Metropolitan Water District accountable against its reckless spending and unfair rates to our residents and businesses. San Diego currently relies on MWD to supply 41% of our water. Over the past several years, MWD has overcharged ratepayers $847 million, overspent its budget by $1.2 billion, and authorized $900 million in unplanned borrowing to pay for its overspending. Meanwhile, MWD's treated water rates have doubled over the past decade, and MWD is prepared to spend billions more on water projects and programs that its own data show aren't needed. The numbers are significant. Maureen,
yes,
thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, we really appreciate the time, and in the interest of time, I'm going to go real quick through just a few slides. I want to talk about, you're aware of the lawsuit that that was mentioned, and the lower court has indicated they voted in favor of San Diego. They have deemed the MWD rates illegal, and they awarded us $244 million. Met has appealed, and we expect that decision to be in the fall of this year. What does it mean for this region? It means just in 4 years alone, that number now is $261 million have come out of our ratepayers' pockets in the San Diego region and has subsidized water supplies in the LA, Orange County, Ventura, San Bernardino County, and Riverside areas. In 8 years alone, where they have used illegal rates, it's over $500 million that have come out of our community's pockets and moved up to Metropolitan. But what's more important is if this doesn't stop, the overcharging is up to $81 million a year by 2020. That means our rates have to be $81 million higher than they need to be in order to subsidize others. And both Supervisor Gaspar and Chair Jacob talked about what's happening related to the rates. I just want to show you they have not had a long-range financing plan since 2004. And this is what they said their rates would be back in 2004, a high and a low. And this is actually what their rates are. As was mentioned, they have increased, they have doubled their rates over the past 10 years, their average rate increase has been 7.2%. They have, as a matter of fact, overcharged us. For the past 4 years, they have overcharged all ratepayers to the tune of nearly $850 million. Now, you would think they would be flush in money. Out of that $847 million, $189 million of it came from our region in overcharges, meaning they charged more than their cost of service during those 4 years. So what did they do with the money? They spent it. But they not only spent it, they spent it on off-budget items. The items that they spent it on was purchasing property in the Bay Delta without an appraisal and without their board approving the project itself. They purchased land in Palo Verde. They spent nearly over $400 million on a turf replacement program that averaged $30,000 an acre foot in cost. Yeah. So since they spent more than they even overcollected, they had to go out last year on an unplanned borrowing of $900 million in 2016. So they've depleted their reserves, and now their reserves are $378 million in operational reserves. Unfortunately, $300 million of that is loan money. Now, having been in a public agency my whole career, and you here having long-term experience, this is not what public agencies do. So the Water Authority is expanding our efforts to get this information out, to really talk throughout the Met service area about what's really happening. Metropolitan is a critical piece of water supplies in Southern California, and we need to make sure they're sustainable. But with this kind of activity, we're worried that that sustainability is in jeopardy. Here's what we ask of you, is that you support us, and we appreciate both Chair Jacob and Supervisor Gaspar putting the resolution on today's agenda. We want to keep you apprised of what's happening. When you are talking to other elected officials in Southern California, we would appreciate if you'd raise your concerns about Metropolitan. So what you have before you today is a resolution supporting the Water Authority's litigation, continuing litigation, as well as our efforts related to MWD's financial practices. Thank you.
Maureen, thank you, and thank you to all on the Water Authority for the great effort, the great fight that continues. I'll put a motion on the floor to receive the presentation and adopt the resolution that's before the board.
Second.
Comments? Supervisor Roberts?
Thank you. Maureen, thank you for coming here. And I saw your earlier presentation, and she had everybody all riled up with that. Maureen and I have worked together for decades now. I'm glad to see her in this position. Who are our representatives at Met?
Right. We have 4 representatives who are 4 board members of the Water Authority, and we only have about 18% of the vote. And the problem is we cannot get them to correct their rates because it means that others are being subsidized and that subsidy would quit. But I will tell you our 4 delegates are fighting hard.
Who are the 4 delegates?
They're Fern Steiner, they are Elsa Saxon, and they're both representatives from City of San Diego. Mike Hogan from Santa Fe Irrigation District, and Keith Lewinger from Carlsbad.
And how are those last 2 appointed?
They're appointed by our board. Our board selects the representatives to the Met Board.
All 4 of the
All
representatives?
4, yes.
Okay. And they're all in sync? And
Absolutely.
okay. Well, I think, we want to encourage you to keep going.
Thank you.
And I know you're going around to anybody that'll listen to you. And I hope people are listening. I thought when the court, at least this first decision came in, it was very positive.
Very much so. We won on basically all counts.
If we were successful, and there's, $200 million on the table here?
Right.
Would that get reimbursed proportionate to the people who have been
Right.
overcharged individually here in San Diego?
Yes, our board took a position in 2012 that less are technical expenses, because we already are being covered for attorney's expenses, but less that it goes back to each of the water agencies on a proportional basis of what they were overcharged. And then they can make the decision whether to invest it in infrastructure, reduce their necessary rate increases, or some type of crediting to the ratepayer.
Well, I suspect our households, like any other, where we dramatically have decreased water usage, only to see our bills going up
Correct.
dramatically. So hopefully we'll be successful in at least mitigating some of this.
Yeah. The majority of our costs to the water agency is MWD's rates.
Well, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
And, if there's anything we can help with beyond a resolution, we should be informed of that.
Great.
Any other questions of Maureen? We do have one speaker. Supervisor Horn, did you want to speak now or wait?
Well, I want to thank Maureen for coming down. And
Thank you, Supervisor.
a couple of years ago, when we investigated this and discovered all those cities in LA that were being subsidized with our rate, they still haven't changed that. You won in court, but I don't know what effect that's going to have. So anyway, I agree with Ron. Just keep it up. Keep the pressure on them.
Thank you.
We would like our money back. I can't believe they can borrow money and overspend like that on an agency. I'm all for the resolution, whatever it is.
Supervisor Cox, did you want to? Okay.
We have one request to speak in opposition to this item. I'd like to invite forward Mina Westford. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Jacob and members of the board. My name is Mina Westford. I'm here representing Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, and I'm here to speak to the resolution pertaining to Metropolitan. As you all are aware, the Water Authority has sued Metropolitan regarding our rate structure. Once the courts have resolved these issues, both sides will live with those results, and we will move on. I bring this up because the resolution before you today has nothing to do with pressing water issues we as a Southland face now and into the future. California and the American Southwest have just come out of the most severe drought in recorded history. The past decade has broken all records of heat, the lowest rainfall, the smallest snowpack, and the lowest deliveries from Northern California water to Metropolitan. On the Colorado River, Lake Mead behind Hoover Dam is approaching shortage conditions for the lower basin. In the Central Valley, there has been devastating impacts to agriculture and tens of thousands of acres of fallowed lands and over $1 billion of losses. Southern California and San Diego was spared the worst of those impacts thanks to Metropolitan's investments in our storage network. When the drought was at its worst, we met all regional deliveries and pulled nearly 2 million acre-feet of water out of storage to keep Southern California running. Southern Californians did their part and reduced and conserved water. Thousands of San Diegans, your constituents, used Metropolitan's rebates to rip out their lawns, to buy rain barrels, and to upgrade water-efficient appliances in record amounts. While the Water Authority did object to these investments, the local support for those programs was overwhelming. We are your primary water provider. We typically deliver more than 80% of all the water that comes into San Diego. We are your cheapest water provider. Metropolitan rates are generally 50% less than those charged by the Water Authority. Water from Carlsbad Desalination Facility, which is only 7% of your water supply, comes in more at 200% than Metropolitan water. For our part, we will continue to do our job of delivering water to San Diegans throughout these ongoing lawsuits. We will defend our rate structure in the courts, but we will not seek resolutions criticizing the Water Authority from our other 5 counties that we serve. We believe the authority's ongoing efforts to politicize this court process and mischaracterize the finances at Metropolitan is extremely unfortunate. Our debt load is far lower than that of the Water Authority, and Wall Street continues to give us the highest credit ratings of any public agency. Regardless of the public relations campaign against us, Metropolitan will fulfill its mission and responsibility to San Diego ratepayers by delivering a reliable and affordable source of water. Thank you. And I have a sheet that I'd like to enter into the record.
Thank you. Yes, you may.
Did you want to respond to any of those comments, like the unauthorized expenditure of funds?
We'd be happy to come and make a presentation.
Or did you want to say anything today?
We think that the Water Authority is mischaracterizing Metropolitan's finance, and we do have a long-range finance plan. It's put into our program in our 2-year budget that we come to every year. We do have disagreements with several of our member agencies, but we usually don't perform them in this manner. We do it in our own boardroom.
So all of those purchases of land and all of that stuff was authorized?
It was deliberated to the board. It was an open session. I can prepare presentation about
by the
those.
board?
And I believe the San Diego County Water Authority actually approved the PVID land purchases, which allows us to have the strongest water rights on the Colorado River. So we use that program to bring in water and to conserve during times of drought. We follow that land and deliver it to San Diego.
And the land in the Delta?
The land in the Delta was also deliberated. I believe the Water Authority voted against it, but it was deliberated in open session, and we are still having deliberations of what we want to do with those islands.
And Palos Verdes?
That's the Palo Verde Irrigation District,
okay.
PVID.
Okay. You got a difficult job ahead of you.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
I have
Supervisor
a
Cox.
question of the speaker. My understanding is that San Diego County Water Authority is the largest customer of the Metropolitan Water District. Is that a fair representation?
Yes.
Do you know about what percentage of the water sold by the Metropolitan Water District is purchased by San Diego County Water Authority?
Metropolitan delivers 80% of the water that comes into San Diego County.
Okay, but that's not the question. The question is, since we're the largest customer of all the customers of the Metropolitan Water District, what percentage is San Diego County Water Authority? Is it 20%, 30%, 35%?
I'd have to get you that number. Los Angeles also is a large customer to Metropolitan, and they have developed their own supplies. So when they're able to move water from the eastern Sierras, then they they're not buying water from Metropolitan. I believe last year, San Diego County Water Authority bought quite a significant amount from us.
Well, that's LA Water and Power, right?
Los Angeles Department
Angeles.
of Water and Power, yes.
Yeah, they have their own. What percentage of the vote does San Diego County have? Of all 100% of the votes to Metropolitan Water District, what percentage does San Diego have?
So it's approximately 18%. It's based on property values, and so I would say they're neck and neck with Orange County, Los Angeles being the largest just because they have a larger land mass, but San Diego's right underneath Orange County, and we're seeing a trend where San Diego may surpass that sometime in the future. So there's about 17, 18%.
Okay. Well,
We have 38 board members representing 26 agencies. We cover all 6 counties. We deliver water to 19 million people.
okay. Well, I thank you for being here. It's brave of you to come down here. I know this is not necessarily the friendliest turf for Metropolitan Water District.
Well, actually, I'm a long-term resident here in San Diego. I'm a San Diego State alumni, and we actually have an office here in San Diego right down the street. We're happy to come and talk to you and talk about our disagreements and disputes with the San Diego County Water Authority. I think it's important that you hear both sides of the story before you get engaged. It's a very complex and complicated thing, and I think that the litigation is one issue, but I think there's lots of opportunities. Like when we were in the drought, we all came together to conserve water and meet the governor's call to reduce our water use, and San Diego, went to that call. I think there's lots of opportunities for us to work together.
Okay, thank you. If I can continue?
Please.
Maybe if Maureen can come back up. Maureen, thank you for being here. And just maybe you might be in a better position to respond to the particulars on this, but 38-member board of directors, and we've got 4 representatives. So
Right.
we've got we've got a little over 10% of the the voting power, and I imagine it's not a weighted voting formula.
It is a weighted vote.
It is a weighted vote that they have there. So what percentage of Metropolitan's purchase of water is purchased by San Diego County?
We average about 25%. So for every dollar Met spends, a quarter of it comes from us.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously that has a big impact on.
Huge. And as Mina had indicated, unfortunately, our vote is not related to financial. Our vote is related to assessed valuation, and that's why our vote's only 18%.
And what does the assessed valuation have to do with water consumption?
That's a very good question. It was established in 1928 because originally the vote and the number of board members was all related to property tax because they didn't charge water rates. They charged only property tax. And it wasn't until the late 60s that they added this water rate component where then it became the majority. Right now, 85–90% of all of their income is through water rates and water charges.
So shouldn't we be seeking maybe some state legislation that would change the voting formula?
Right. We should, and unfortunately, we're a minority when it comes to, it would take away power from Los Angeles, predominantly Orange County, and so forth.
So getting that through the state legislature
Would be very difficult, sir.
Difficult. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Madam Chair, thank you and Supervisor Gaspar for bringing this forward. I think it's an important issue, certainly one that has a big impact on the citizens of San Diego County. It's timely. I mean, we've fortunately, through the efforts of our county water authority, we have won in the trial court, and while it's on appeal, and we hopefully will get this resolved, hopefully by this fall, and get some rate relief for the water consumers in San Diego County. I do think, we should go ahead and move forward with the resolution before us today because, in my experience in working with governmental agencies across California and even having some experience now at other agencies across the country, I think the Metropolitan Water District is one of the most, how can I put this politely, more arrogant boards that I've seen that has not been willing to make modifications to the changing circumstances that we're dealing with. And I would love to see nothing more than some efforts at the state legislature level to make significant modifications into the way that it's operated. But I think our chances of seeing that happen are probably next to none. And so barring that, I think the only thing we can do is just express our concern and our outrage in regards to the circumstances that we find ourselves in. This county, through the County Water Authority, has done more in the last few years to become less and less dependent on the Metropolitan Water District. I commend them for their efforts in that regard. To think that we will have gone from, 95% 20 years ago to 20% by 2020. I look forward to the day when we will have 100% control over our utilization of water. And while it may cost us more money in the short term to see some of the things we've done with the quantification agreement with Imperial County and certainly with the desalinization facility in Carlsbad, I think those are investments that will, in the long term, pay big dividends to this county and make us a lot more water independent than we are right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the speaker from Met come down. I have looked at both sides of this issue, and I stand by my comments, and I stand by the motion that's on the floor. So we do have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Madam Chair, that motion passes unanimously with all board members who are present voting aye.